Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Africa News with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Morocco's thrown out of the 2015 African Cup of Nations and stripped of its hosting rights after refusing to commit to the January tournament dates. That was supposed to be next year because of fears over Ebola. The continent's footballing body says it's considering its options on going forward. Nigeria's President Goodluck Jonathan says he'll be seeking a second term in next year's presidential election, but still vows to defeat Boko Haram despite the bloodshed of a school suicide bombing earlier this week. And Ugandan gay rights campaigners say they've seen a draft of a new anti-gay law they fear could be harsher than the one thrown out earlier this year. First up, Morocco's been disqualified from taking part or hosting the African Cup of Nations in January as planned. Rabat had wanted to postpone the tournament because of fears over the number of fans from Ebola-affected countries that might attend. The Confederation of African Football was having none of it and says it's considering applications for replacement hosts. Several other African countries like South Africa, Egypt and Ghana have already said they're not interested.
The announcement came in late afternoon in Casablanca. In this cafe, customers and staff pore over what the consequences will be for Morocco's national sport. Opinions are divided.
Yes, it's a shame for us Moroccans who love football, but we couldn't stand for the virus being allowed into the country.
If we're going to take the argument about the virus at face value, operating flights, housing teams from the affected countries, well, there are a few things to say. It makes it a bit difficult to understand because you feel that the problem could have been dealt with.
At Morocco's Radio Mars, which specialises in sport, founder Lino Bracco measures up the consequences.
Well, first of all, it looks bad, and there will also be a big economic loss because many national sponsors and suppliers will miss out. And a whole organisational machine has been set in train and is now being stopped just over 2 months before the competition begins.
And the sporting fallout for Morocco could be even worse.
It means that Moroccan football will be, for some time, out in the cold. That's for sure. It means no international contact. That means no taking part in the major international tournaments, the Africa Cup of Nations, the World Cup, the Olympic Games.
So what legal recourse will Morocco have?
From a legal point of view, Morocco is fairly well placed because Article 90 of the Africa Cup of Nations rules states that the maximum sanction that can be applied to a country that pulls out, and I say pulls out, even though that this is just a postponement, is a fine of $50,000.
But Morocco has already been banned from January's tournament.
In other news, as was long expected, Goodluck Jonathan's confirmed he will be running next year for a second term as Nigerian president. The confirmation came at the huge rally on Tuesday after the ruling party had already nominated him as its candidate last month. By running again, Jonathan, a Southern Christian, has rubbed the opposition up the wrong way by breaking an unwritten rule to rotate the presidency of the candidate from the Muslim North. Critics have also focused on his inability to so far stop Boko Haram insurgents. On Tuesday, Jonathan admitted difficulties on this front.
Our stewardship has not been without challenges. We have had to deal with the wave of insurgency that has swept through some parts of our dear country. Only yesterday, government science secondary school in Yobe State was bombed by insurgents.
Well, dozens of school children were killed in Monday's suicide bombing. Jonathan's again vowed to defeat the Islamist insurgents blamed for the attack, but his credibility has taken a beating recently after the government announced a ceasefire, which Boko Haram has flatly denied exists. Meanwhile, the bloodshed continues.
They survived one of the most horrific massacres to be blamed on Boko Haram militants. At least 48 of their school friends died on Monday's attack. Eyewitnesses say the suicide bomber was disguised in school uniform and allegedly hid explosives in his backpack. The blast took place in the state of Yobe, one of the 3 regions under a state of emergency. The Nigerian army is struggling to crush the Islamists. Boko Haram keeps striking the northeast of the country. More than 20 villages recently fell in their hands. They still hold hostage more than 200 teenage girls kidnapped 6 months ago. Their aim? Create an Islamic caliphate. In 5 years, more than 10,000 people have been killed. The group has become a regional threat, particularly for neighboring countries like Chad or Cameroon. In these rare images obtained by France 24, the Cameroonian army is being deployed at the border. More than 1,000 troops fight against Boko Haram. So far, they've reportedly captured or killed hundreds of insurgents. Despite these measures, 6 attacks occurred simultaneously last weekend. Thousands of people have fled the violence, and according to the UN, the situation is worsening.
We've clearly noticed a huge impact on the economy, on the local market, and on the price of basic commodities.
Faced with the crisis, a regional military force could be put into place in mid-November.
South African police procedure has been called into question in the trial of the British millionaire accused of ordering a hit on his wife. Tuesday saw day 19 of Shren Dewani's trial in Cape Town. His sex life has been a key focus of the prosecution. It's arguing that he's gay and had his wife Annie assassinated on their honeymoon in 2010 because he wanted to get out of the marriage. Now, he claims he was carjacked and his bride kidnapped and killed. Aisha Ishmael's in Cape Town. She tells us more about what went on in court on Tuesday.
Prosecutors in this matter has called state witnesses, including a number of policemen, and almost all these policemen have come to court testifying under oath about mistakes that have happened during their investigation. In one case, there was a policeman who lost his pocketbook, and this pocketbook is very important because he was recording statements. He took a statement from Shren Dewani, and those vital information contained in this pocketbook could not be produced in court because he said that he had lost the pocketbook, and so there was absolutely no evidence to support what he was saying. There were other mistakes in terms of taking proper fingerprints, other mistakes in terms of the car that was used, and the prosecution's case is only as strong as the police work. And unfortunately, 19 days later, the state has not been able to prove its case, and they've actually been let down once again by the police.
Aisha Ishmael there for us in Cape Town. Gay rights campaigners in Uganda say they've seen a leaked copy of a proposed bill for a new anti-gay law that's been drafted to avoid any possible legal challenge. Activists say the plan's more draconian than anti-gay legislation annulled by the courts in August. In the meantime, the gay community faces persecution and difficulties.
Jackson Mukasa is like many other Ugandans, young, ambitious, and unemployed. But Jackson is also gay. And in this socially conservative nation, that means large parts of his life must be lived in secret. In January, he was jailed for 5 months under a colonial-era law that punishes gays for carnal knowledge against the order of nature.
We had no rights there, you understand? So we were teased, we were abused, everything was there. Torturing, making us do some things which we didn't want, you understand? So, it was very, very, very hard, extremely hard in prison.
Even after his release, things remain tough for Jackson. He says he can't get a job now that people know he is gay. Last December, the Ugandan parliament passed a new anti-gay law that meant homosexuals could be jailed for life, outlawed the promotion of homosexuality, and required people to denounce gays to the authorities. The Constitutional Court struck down the law on a technicality, but MPs are seeking to reintroduce the legislation, and life remains difficult for Uganda's LGBT community. For 6 nights a week, this bar is indistinguishable from the dozens of others in the capital's business district. Every Sunday, though, it's transformed into a haven for Uganda's gay community to meet, drink, and dance.
During the week, we have so much that we're doing. We're looking over our shoulders. We're, trying to survive. And a night like this is like for us to unwind, just for us to let all the troubles go.
But as the clock ticks towards Monday, the revelers must leave this sanctuary and return to a world where homosexuality remains taboo.
That wraps up African News. Stay with us all. More coming up.